Okay, how we doing, people? We're doing this React and Redux manage state locally first challenge from the, which part is this in? It's in React and Redux. Uh, there's the React section, there's the Redux section, and then there's a section with React and Redux together, right? So that's where we are. I'm doing this video because I had a problem with this particular challenge, which should be just a review, and I couldn't figure it out for a while. Even Googling around, I couldn't find the answer right away. I finally found it. I was a little beside myself that it wasn't that difficult of a thing. It was just sort of a trick. So I'm going to go through the whole thing and tell you what the trick was. So you want to just run to the end. I'll tell you what the trick. I'll tell you what the trick is right now. You can't do submit event on a something that's not a form. It's got to be a click there. Now watch the whole thing and we'll show you what I mean. All right, so we'll just go through the whole thing. So let's just get right into it. First, in the render method, have the component render an input element, a button element, and a UL element. So let's do that right here. We need input. We need a button. And we need a UL. Right? Okay. The input element changes this to trigger a handle change. So that means we need to get an onChange event onto our input, right? And we have to do something when it changes. So onChange equals some function, right? This dot handle change, which we have not written yet, right? So that's, here's the hint, add the handle change function right here. Okay, there we've got our function. Whenever you have a function here in React, you need to bind this. Forget that half the time, and it's there. There are a couple ways to do it. I'm going to put it in the constructor. You can do it in line. You can do it, make this an arrow function. I tried doing that before, and it didn't seem to work. It may be either I had the syntax wrong somehow, or it could be a function of the freeCodeCamp editor here. Maybe this is not like a perfect REPL or whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to do this regular. I'm going to put the binding here. So you say this dot your function handle change in this case equals this dot your function bind. All right, that's because this doesn't know what to refer to. Doing the binding it to this makes sure that we know that this refers to whatever this class or the instance of the class once the class is called later on down the road. Okay, so now we have to tell it what to do here. It says it should trigger the handle change method. Okay, so that's what we just did. onChange, trigger this function or method, I guess, right? It's a method because it's attached to an object. It's not just a function. And that's that. So we'll do the functionality of that in a minute. The input element should render the value of input that's in the component state. So here's the state, here's the input value. So we want this, whatever this happens to be. Obviously, it's empty string right now. We want it to be displayed here in the input. So you do that by saying value equals this dot state dot input. Okay. Maybe if I do run the test, maybe that'll show up. Yeah, there we go. So why isn't anything happening when I type? Because we haven't told it how to change yet. We're just telling it, hey, the value of this thing is whatever's in input. Right now, what's in input is an empty string. So it doesn't matter what you type. We haven't changed what this input is. So it's empty string no matter what whoops, don't do that. Until we change what's in the input, it doesn't matter what you type here, it's not going to change. So that's what we have to do. We have to tell it how to change. We have to, and that's what the whole point of this handle change is. So let's do that. Do that by, so we need to change the value of this input. How do we change the value of something that's in the state? React gives us this special function, this dot set state, which is a function. So you need parentheses, and you give it an object. And you just tell it what the new input should be. The new input should be, oops, I forgot this handle change gets the event. So when you run this handle change, the on change is an event, right? So there's a bunch of information that's attached to any event. So here's the event, and the piece of information that we want from the particular event happens to be event.target.value. Now, in theory, let's see, run the test. Does that do it? There, now we go. So we see every time I'm changing, it's not going to show up here. But what's happening is right now that input is not empty string right now. That input is SSDCA, or now it's, whenever you change, we're changing the value of input. So then the input value is whatever's in the input. Okay, so that part's done. Let's see. Run the tests, and does it make any of our stuff pass yet? Okay, we got a couple things passing. The input should render the value of input in the local state. That's what I was just talking about. It's rendering the value of this into here, right? Calling them handle change should update the input value to the correct input. Okay, so that's exactly what we just did. Let's go back up here. The button element should trigger submit message method. Okay, so the button is going to do something similar. We're going to tell it to on submit the message, right? On submit equals this dot submit message. Right? Okay. That doesn't need to be a space there. I'm going to tell the button to actually have something in it. Submit. Okay. So this is just like we did with this other one. So we got to put this. What do I call it? Submit message to function, and here's what the function does. Test. Does it show up over here now? Okay, so we've got our nice button. Nothing happens, right? Okay, there's a couple reasons why nothing's happening. First of all, first and foremost, we did not tell it to do anything. Okay, so let's do this. Take care of this first. We're gonna bind the submit message to this. Here's a good shortcut. When you want to copy a line down below, Shift Alt arrow down copies the line. That's a good little trick. So this is not handle change now. We're calling it submit. Oh, and here's another one. See how I highlighted handle change, and this is lightly highlighted, the same word. Control D, doing both highlights the next one in line. So now I can just do submit message, and it does them both at once. Big time saver. Those two little tricks, big time saver. Okay, so we got that. One of the things, the handle, right, submit message method should concatenate the current message sort input to the message array in the local state. Okay, so we're going to take the value of the input and put it into the message array. Right now, the message array is empty. So how do you take one array and put it into another array? Well, first of all, the message is in the state, so we have to do set state, right? So this dot set state is a function that takes an object, and we're going to say messages. Here's the trick. This is a little ES6 thing, the spread, right? You do dot 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 this dot state dot messages. Oops, we want this to be inside a new array, right? So do that. So right now, what this does, the dot 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 the spread, it takes an array and takes the values of an array and spreads it out. You're not supposed to use the word in a definition, but that's the way it works. It takes the values of an array and puts them somewhere else. Right? In this case, we're putting it into another array. So if there's 5 things in there in the current messages array, let's say there's 5 things in there, this is going to take those 5 things and be the first 5 things in this new array. And the 6th thing, or the whatever thing, is going to be this. We want to put whatever's in the input into this messages array. So how do we get that? This dot state dot input. Okay, so this is whatever messages, however many there were. So that's the great thing about this. It doesn't matter how many of them are. Just going to take them and put them in line there, and then we add our next one to that. It says, okay, so enough with that. It says the submit message should concatenate the current message to the messages array. Okay, that's what we just did, and clear the value of input. So we can do that right here, right? We can say input is going to be back to empty string. Should clear the value of input. So let's see if that does anything for us. Type in a message. We can't really tell whether or not it did anything there, but let's see if it passes any other tests. Handle change, submit, add message. Okay. Fairly sure that's all correct. Maybe we have to get the rest of this done to make it pass those tests, though. So let's take a little look here. Let me see if I can spread this out a little bit. I want to keep the screen kind of big so it's clear to see what's going on, but maybe I can. Why is this being difficult? Come on, let me have it. There you go. That doesn't need to be big. This will give us some more room. Oh, come on now. There you go. All right, that's probably a little more clear. This was getting all wrapping lines and stuff. Let's space this out a little bit too. It's a little cleaner. Okay, so now finally we need to use the unordered list to map over the array of messages and render it to the screen as a list of li elements. So we have messages. We have to do this is JavaScript. So it's this dot state dot messages, which is an array. So we can do the map. You can map over any array, right? So this dot state dot messages is an array. For each message, use arrow function. What are we doing with each message? We're returning an li, a list item, right? So since this is just a one-line thing, we don't even need to write curly brackets or anything like that, or even the return word. So we can just write what we want. So li needs a key. I'm going to come back to that. Let's just do this. Li, what's going to be in the li? It's going to be each message will be in the li and li. Normally, you need to have a key inside each one of these. It's supposed to be unique. I'm just going to put the message in here. This is not the, you should put something more unique, because what if someone puts the same message twice? For now, this should be fine though. When you're doing a real React thing, the key needs to be something unique. Some people I see put date, but I could swear I've read somewhere, maybe even on the React docs, that you're not supposed to use the date for some reason. Whatever, it's supposed to be, just be aware that the key, you're supposed to put a key on list items and it's supposed to be unique value. We're just going to assume that no one's going to write the same message twice here. Let's see, run the test, see if anything else passes. Not yet. Okay, so why isn't it passing? This is where I got to where I had problems. The last two things, I could not get these things to work forever. And I finally figured out, submit. You submit a form. There's no form on here. It's just a button. Buttons don't submit unless they're attached to a form. So we really just need on click. This is what tripped me up for the longest time. I think that, is that what did it? That was it. That's all it was. The world rejoices, right? So that was the whole problem. It took me forever to figure this out. There is no on submit on a button. There can be a button on a form, and that could be what you submit. But the submit, you can't submit without a form. So in this case, we're doing all this stuff just by clicking. It just happens to be a button. They kept using the words submit, submit message, submit, and I was like, okay, so it's going to be on submit, right? And the submit message over here, right? So in my brain, I had, oh, it's a submit function, and I couldn't get that out of my head. Finally, I figured out, well, somewhere on the internet, someone had the solution. To be honest, I didn't get it just out of thinking about it. So that was a big problem. Button on submit, wrong. Button on click, correct. let's see what this, so this say hello world. And since it's not submit, the enter doesn't work, right? It's got to be the click the button. Hello world. Hi, Alex. Submit. There we go. So you notice it's added it to the list and it cleared the input. There's your solution. Just run the test one last time just to show. The world rejoices. Submit and go to the next challenge. Okay. Hopefully that helps. Like I said, I wanted to make a video about this because it took me a while to get my head out of that on submit and into the proper call event listener. All right. Hopefully that helps somebody. Thanks. Have a great day, everybody.